I'm Dan Judkins. I'm a member of the Southern Trails chapter of OCTA, also on the board of directors for the Southern Trails chapter, and I'm the editor of Desert Tracks magazine. We're here today at Slaughter Ranch, which is about 15 miles east of Douglas, Arizona, and probably a little less than 15 miles from the New Mexico border. And the Sonoran border is about 300 yards that way. So that's kind of where we're at. Now, why were we at Slaughter Ranch? Slaughter Ranch is a later 1880s era ranch by a Cochise County sheriff who owned it. But the reason we're really here today is because this is one of the best water holes in all of the Southwest. There's an artesian spring here that the water is just bubbling up, and it feeds into what's called the San Bernardino River, and that is actually one of the headwaters of a river that flows southwards all the way through Sonora to southern Sonora, the Yaqui River. In 1846, the Cook and the Mormon Battalion came through the pass just about 5 miles to the east of here, Guadalupe Pass, and then their next campsite was here at this spot behind us, where the water was, and they were always looking for water. The location actually goes back in time quite a bit earlier than even the mid-19th century. There was a Spanish Presidio here about a quarter of a mile from where I'm standing, called San Bernardino, and then the ranch that grew up around it was known as the San Bernardino Ranch. So the original name of this place is the San Bernardino Ranch. The later 19th century name is Slaughter's Ranch. But the real reason as trail people that we like this spot so much is that Cook and the Mormon Battalion came through, camped right here at this specific spot where the water is, and then they were followed within a year or two by the 49ers, almost all of whom, using the Southern Trail, came on Cook's route. And so that and the Presidio that preceded that by 75 years or so, back into the Spanish period, makes this a really very important part of Southwest history. The San Bernardino Presidio was established here a couple hundred yards from where I'm standing, just on the other side of the current U.S.-Mexico border. And it was established in 1776. Troops moved from the Fronteras Presidio, which is about 40 miles further south into Mexico, up to this Presidio here, San Bernardino Presidio, in 1776 and continued here until 1780. This is exactly the same time period that the Terrenate Presidio moved to the Santa Cruz de Terrenate location, which is near Tombstone, and Tubac Presidio moved to Tucson, all in 1776. The Tucson Presidio persisted all the way up until Cook came through with his Mormon Battalion in 1846, but the Santa Cruz de Terrenate Presidio and this one, the San Bernardino, only lasted 4 years. The reason they moved them originally was to try to line up the Presidios in a straight line, with Presidios about every 60 miles, on the misguided theory that that would somehow provide border protection from the Apache attacks into Mexico. Out here with the water is a convergence of trails, and first off, of course, there were Native American trails. This is right in the heart of Apache land, the Chiricahua Apache, and they raided into Mexico down this valley behind me. And then the Presidio period in the late 1700s, when they were trying to put a defense up against the Apaches, the Spanish. And then they developed a road from Janos, Chihuahua to Fronteras, Sonora, which is 40 miles south of here, and then on up to the foot end of the Guadalupe Mountains at Guadalupe Pass. The road went through there, and then it went on westward until it intersected with the Santa Cruz River and went to Tubac and Tucson. Now, then comes the Cook's Mormon Battalion during the Mexican-American War, 1846, and the guide LaRue kept wanting to go south to intersect with the road that I just described, the Janos Road, because he knew that road was there and he knew there were water sites all along it. Further north, straight west out of New Mexico, along the line of today's Interstate 10, was shorter by 100 miles, but the water wasn't assured, and there was a large group, so he wanted to go a little further south. Immediately after the Mormon Battalion and the end of the Mexican-American War, the Cook's Diary was published along with a couple of maps, and those were snapped up in March of 1849 by American 49ers planning their trip west. And so those who decided to go on the southern route, to have an all-year, all-weather route to California, they picked up Cook's Diary and maps, and they followed the same way. So all of the southern, when I say all, 95% or more, the best we can tell, of the southern route 49ers came right on Cook's Trail until he got to the San Pedro River, but they went one river beyond to Santa Cruz and up to Tucson. So the 49ers, and then in the next few years after that, many, many more immigrant wagons came through here. In 1852, Bartlett picked up the same guide, LaRue, in San Diego coming east and passed through here. It came right to this spot where we're at right now. And so they recorded in the Bartlett diaries every day they met another American immigrant wagon train coming south, and this is in 1852. So that's 4 years or so, or 3 or 4 years after the gold rush. And so it was still a major route until most of the travelers moved a little further north in 1858 when the Butterfield started running the mail and stage to California. The Presidio that the Spanish built in 1776 right here was just on the west terrace right up above San Bernardino Creek, and it was about 400 feet square, just a little less than 400 feet. On the northeast corner and the southeast corner was those diamond-shaped bastion structures that stuck outside of the wall, kind of as a little tower that allowed them to see outside of the wall in two directions they could shoot if people were attacking. And even as late as 50 or 60 years ago, there were still some visible foundations and some melted adobe structures, a lot of Mexican Mayolica pottery and that sort of thing there. Now there's been a further passage of time is not holding up well, and there's nothing above ground now. And today we're out here discovering the trail, and where so many trails converge, and this would be a great place for you to come visit someday. Come out and discover the trails in the southern trails.